You know what? I think reviewing a game console is kinda dumb. So welcome to our review of the Nintendo Switch. Alright, so we've had the Nintendo Switch for about a week now, and the review embargo is finally up, so you're gonna be seeing a lot of thoughts and impressions and all kinds of things about the Nintendo Switch. Now, as I just mentioned, I think reviewing a game system, especially before it's even out, is kinda silly, because so much of its strength is dependent on the software library and what games are available for it. And seeing as most of the press only has access to one, maybe two games, it seems a bit premature to be locking in a review score and whatever else for this. So for that reason, our review is going to be a little bit different. For one, I'm doing it completely off the cuff because I'm under the gun for reviewing Zelda. So this is totally unscripted. I'm just going by the seat of my pants here. But I do have a list here of pros and cons I wanted to go over of my early impressions of the Switch. So this is based on a week's worth of playtime in a variety of conditions, playing mostly Zelda and a little bit of Just Dance. Now I do want to stress that, again, the system isn't even officially out yet. We've only played a couple of games, and the operating system isn't even fully there yet because there's a day one patch coming and we don't have access to it. So a lot of the features of the Switch are unavailable currently, like anything internet related, as well as the eShop, adding friends, stuff of that nature. So again, it seems premature to be reviewing a product that's not even finalized compared to what you'll be playing when you pick it up. So again, this is just an abbreviated list of pros and cons, and even by con, I think those are more of a concern at this point than a true con, because again, some of the stuff can be changed or patched, and I'm not even sure if some of these issues are exclusive to me or to everyone. I've tried to do some research with other journalists, but again, you know, it's hard to say for sure. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and launch into it here. So our first pro is, holy crap, it is a full console. So this is kind of nuts. This thing is super tiny, and yet I'm playing on my TV as if it's a full console. Now don't get me wrong, it's not quite to the level of PS4 or even Xbox One in terms of, you know, pure graphical power, but the games, or at least the game I've been playing on it, Breath of the Wild, still looks amazing. It's still a full AAA console game, and the fact it's playing on a handheld that's smaller than the gamepad is ridiculous. So that is really cool, and also the fact that I'm able to use a proper controller with it, being the Pro Controller. Granted, that doesn't come with it out of the box, but again, it's easy to forget that you're playing this on a system that is essentially a handheld. That is ridiculous, and that is super cool. Next pro. It's easy to set up. You can start playing it right out of the box. You don't need a TV for it, which even the Wii U couldn't do. So that is super cool. You can play it right away on your drive home, for instance, even though the battery, you know, may not be fully charged, you can get some playtime in. And even when setting up a home, like, it'll walk you through the steps right from the get-go if you wanted to set it up immediately. And it's super easy to connect the dock, you know, via the power and HDMI cables. It's not that much simpler than any other console, or even at the same level. But given the fact it's so small and that it walks you through the entire process, it is just really easy. Not a huge pro, but I thought I'd throw it out there. Pro, it's super versatile. I mean, you can play it on the TV, you can play it in handheld form, you can play it on tabletop mode with a kickstand. You can take out the Joy-Cons, you can play them completely separated in a very comfortable position. You can play with them in the grip, you can play with a Pro Controller. The Switch is really all about options, and you can play it really however you want. It can do stuff that no other console or even a handheld has come close to doing, and that is super neat. I mean, that is the whole point of the Switch, of course, and it's just something that is hard to appreciate until you've fully gone hands-on with it yourself. And on that note, another pro, and it's kind of related, it's portable. I mean, again, it's something that you can't fully appreciate until you have it. I've been able to just pick it up and take it with me wherever I go. I came up with my pro and con list while at a coffee shop while playing with my Switch just to finalize my thoughts on it for the purpose of this video. And I was sitting there playing Zelda at a coffee shop. A AAA Zelda game, a console caliber Zelda game, and I was playing it in a coffee shop. That is ridiculous to me, so that is a super cool pro. Pro, great screen. The screen on the Switch is by far, and bar none, the best screen Nintendo has ever released on a handheld, and it looks fantastic. It looks sharp, it's colorful, it's bright, and the touchscreen itself is super responsive. I really could not be happier with it. Well, I mean, I could if it were even high resolution and of that nature, but given the compromises necessary, it's a really great screen. 720p, it's not 1080p, but it still looks awesome, and the games really do shine, or at least Zelda really does shine on it. I really have no qualms with the screen. Pro, it's pretty loud. Again, at the coffee shop, I cranked up the volume and I could hear it over the loud noise of everyone there, and it was pretty loud. Granted, it doesn't get like super loud, but it gets loud enough that I had no trouble hearing the major points of the game. And to get back to the pro section again real quick, sorry guys, I'm totally all over the map on this, I realize that. That's what you get when you have a week and like no time to prepare reviews. But how cool is it that when you're playing in handheld form, it's a handheld that gives you full console controls. You have full analog sticks. Granted, they're a little bit smaller and their travel distance isn't as far as a typical analog stick, but still an analog stick. They click in. You have access to 2 pairs of shoulder buttons, the triggers and the shoulders, and access to every other conventional button. Like, it is nuts what they pulled off here, while keeping the size of this as small as they have, while being pretty comfortable. I mean, granted, playing with a handheld itself isn't as comfortable as playing with a typical controller, but it's comfortable enough. And then once you're playing in tabletop mode or at home on the TV, that's when the grip can come into play, and that is surprisingly comfortable as well. Or even, again, using the controllers detached are comfortable. Alright, moving on, we got another con here, and that's battery life in general. So again, I've only really been able to test it with Zelda, and we put it through its paces. We cranked everything up to the max, and we got just slightly under 2.5 hours. Now granted, that was with a bright screen, Wi-Fi on, auto brightness turned off, the works, sound is up, everything. We're basically torturing it. So 2.5 hours isn't super great for a handheld. On the other hand, there's the fact that this is essentially a console that you're playing anywhere you want. And that is kind of ridiculous. So it's hard to say that's a true con because they're working with physics here. There's not much else they could do. The battery itself, evidently, going by the teardowns, is already huge. So I hesitate to call that a true con, but it's something to keep in mind. You know, it's a concern that the battery isn't super good with Zelda, but it can apparently be much longer with games that are less intensive. Again, haven't been able to test that myself, that's according to Nintendo, but their estimate was pretty accurate as Zelda, so I trust them on that estimate for other games. Like, I suspect snipper clips will last far longer than Zelda does. Now, related to the battery, perhaps a bigger reason for this con is I've noticed something weird with Zelda, and I've heard it from at least one other journalist, so I don't know if it's a widespread issue or not. So when I'm playing Zelda on the TV, with it in the dock of course, because it has to be, my battery doesn't fully charge. It only reaches anywhere between 80 to 90%. I've seen it hover around 85%, but recently it's been around like 82%. Which means if you're playing Zelda and you want to take it on the go, you're leaving the house with a battery that may not be fully charged by 1/5. And that's a bummer, but that 2.5 hour or 3 hour battery life then drops even farther, depending on your settings of course, than what it would be at full charge. So I don't know if it's because Zelda's sucking more juice than the system can also charge the battery with. I don't quite understand what's going on there, but it is a concern. I don't know if that can be fixed, or I don't know if it's exclusive to a small amount of units. Again, I don't know fully what's going on there. It's weird, not a deal breaker. It is something to keep in mind though, it's another concern. And yeah, so that wraps up with my pros and cons so far. Again though, I added a final note here on the fact that there's so many things that we can't really even talk about yet. I want to touch on durability, but the fact that it's so new and I've been super careful with it, I can't really touch on that. It's held up so far, but I haven't really moved it too many places, and I've been super careful with it. I have been using a carrying case that Nintendo sent along with it, and I would recommend it. You want to keep the screen nice, I would recommend any kind of carrying case basically. I've just been really paranoid of dropping this thing. It is nice, it feels well made. It also feels like something that would easily break if you dropped it. I don't think it quite has a gamepad durability, so yeah, keep that in mind. So getting back to the whole waiting thing, the eShop's not active, no online functionality, all that stuff. We haven't been able to test HD Rumble, because we don't have a game that supports it yet, although I might soon, I don't know. By launch, of course, I will for sure. So there's a lot we can't talk about yet. That's why I think it's premature to do a proper review. And again, I don't even fully know how you review this thing. It's such a different console from everything else, from pretty much any major console or handheld that's ever existed before. I guess this is where I'll get in my overall thoughts so far. I think it's a cool system. I've really been enjoying it. It has, again, some concerns right now, but putting those aside, or even not putting them aside, taking them into account rather, I've been having a good time with the Switch. And granted, it helps the fact that I've been playing Zelda, which is pretty great. Our review will be coming up, I believe, tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, like, this is a new type of system. Again, it's not as powerful as the other consoles out there, but can you take those systems with you everywhere? They dwarf the Switch. They have to be 10 times the size, 100 times the size. I'm not good at math. No, I mean, they are many times bigger than the Switch itself, and they are not portable in the slightest. So the fact that you can even get a hint of a console-like functionality, which I think is way more than a hint. This is more than the Wii U in a system a fraction the size that you can take anywhere with you is ridiculous to me. That is still nuts. And the fact that you have 2 controllers anywhere, you can play 2-player with you no matter where you go with the Joy-Cons, the fact that you can set up on a plane with a kickstand, it's neat. It's super cool. It's a surprising system that you can't fully appreciate the benefits until you've had it. And again though, despite my initial enthusiasm, even I want that to be tempered a bit, because again, this is based on 1 week with basically 1 game. So yeah, those are my early impressions. I wouldn't take it as any concrete feelings quite yet, because it's just for all the aforementioned reasons. There's a lot that we don't know yet about the system, including how the controls will work with all future games. Based on what I've seen in Zelda, the fact that it's a really hardcore game and they work as well as they do, I'm not too concerned, but there's a lot of questions here that I can't fully answer. But early impressions are, it's good, I'm liking it, and it's a new type of system, and that is pretty neat. Alright, I feel like I've probably been super redundant at points on this, so I think it's time to wrap up my review. I've never done an off-the-cuff review like this. Review in quotes. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully it made sense. Alright guys, so thanks for watching. Of course, stay tuned for lots more on the Nintendo Switch, including our review of Zelda coming up tomorrow, and that will be a fully scripted review. It's going back to our old standard. It will have a proper grade on it, or a proper GameXplain review scale on it. So make sure to stay tuned for all that. Alright guys, catch you later, and thanks for watching. And make sure to subscribe if you haven't already by clicking that subscribe button right below. Catch you later. Bye.